I will appropriate your food. Food is life, and I just don't trust people who don't like to eat, and maybe I take it too far. And if you think that I'm taking food too seriously, this is going to be a very problematic episode for you. I'm going to roast you a lot. Feel free to roast me back in the comments. I seriously judge people who don't eat or they don't like to eat. They're picky eaters. To me, they might as well say they don't like life. Like, what do you mean you don't like food? You might as well say, you know what? Oxygen, it just bothers me. I understand a person who is speaking Mandarin Chinese and eating more than a person who says to me in English, I just don't like food. I forgot to eat. I don't like it. I don't even know if these people are the same species as me. We may look alike, but do you know sea lions and seals are different animals entirely, but they look alike too? Now, I feel very fortunate to live in the United States. We get a bad rap for having terrible food. I've contributed to that. But that's kind of mainstream fast food. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what is available to people. Like a lot of places only have a fast food joint and an Applebee's. And most people, they learn to cook from their parents or more likely not at all. Like, seriously, not at all. No one's teaching anyone how to cook. And that's why they don't like food, because no one ever taught them how to cook and to eat well. So they've only been exposed to this terrible, terrible food. Okay, bagged bread that stays fresh for 5-6 months, that's not bread. That's a bread-like substance. Bread really goes bad in about 3 days. It comes out of the oven, and 3 days after, it's done. Yes, bread is cooked in an oven. Did you know that? What we have here is like a fatty, sugary substance that's made to be bread. And the only reason they can legally call it bread is because all these lobbyists got into Congress, and now we're forced to call this stuff bread. It's not bread. It's like a sponge. Why does it stay fresh for so long? Did you ever stop to ask yourself that? Why should this be fresh for so long? So if these people, this food lobby didn't have so many people and so much money in Congress, there's a lot of stuff we call food now that wouldn't really be called food. Now, bread is just the start of my beef with the American food system. Thank God, due to the internet and just information, people's sensibilities are shifting. Now, if you just ignore fast food, modern American food, mainstream food, our food is actually pretty awesome. And I think that's kind of a theme for almost every aspect of American life. Just ignore the mainstream, and what you find left is actually some of the best in the world. And that is because we have so many different culinary traditions coexisting here. Groups of people come over and they bring their delicious food with them. So American food has improved so much over the past just 100 years. The cuisine has shifted. It's been like light speed. Do you remember that video series I did on Rufus Estes, and he was the first African American to make a cookbook? That was traditional American cuisine in 1911. And it was bad. It was horrible. It was flavorless. Even traditional American food has been improved by different ethnicities coming over here, not to mention all the ethnic food we have. So like pre-World War I, American food was just terrible. They hadn't even assimilated the Italians yet. Do you remember in A Wonderful Life where that mean old man, is he Mr. Cotter? I'm not sure his name. Anyway, that grumpy old man calls the Italians garlic eaters. He's like, all these garlic eaters over here. And he said it like it's an insult. And I'm there watching it thinking, what do you mean you don't eat garlic? Garlic is like one of the main seasonings. Just an FYI, upper crust American food at the turn of the century, turn of the last century, so 1900, is actually legendarily bland. That's how we got cornflakes. Cornflakes. This guy called Kellogg was legit like, what is the blandest thing that will sustain me? So yeah, that's how we got cornflakes. Absolutely no flavoring. Wheaties is horse food. This was upper crust American food way back in the day because they were all about health and nutrition. But then we did assimilate the Italians, and their food is now standard American food. And guess what? It wasn't easy to assimilate the Italians either. They were a problematic ethnic group. I'm sorry, Italians. I'm sorry. But they bombed Wall Street when they got here. They started the mafia. That was a lot of violence. And what did we get? We got pizza. You know what? Worth it. Worth it. Oh, that was worth it for pizza. Anyway, you'll relate to this video more if you live near a city. You've got a lot of different restaurants and good prepared foods to eat. Or if you can cook. If you can cook and learn recipes, you'll appreciate this video a lot. But if you only eat packaged American food or fast food, you might not relate much to this video, but it's that group that can probably learn the most. Why can't you cook? Learn to cook. Come on, you can tie your shoes, learn to cook. We are living in an increasingly diverse society. It's no longer black and white. Back in the day, it'd be like, oh, there's black people and there's white people. No, gone. Remember when they tried to like just group BIPOC together and it didn't work out? Because that's hilarious. We here at Maya Muses understand the differences between groups of people. Just because a people is brown doesn't mean like they're like every other kind of brown person. There are different tribes within brown or indigenous or black. You know what I mean? There's so many different tribes. African is not Caribbean, which is not African American. And Asian, obviously we have Chinese, we have Japanese, we have Korean, we have Vietnamese. It just keeps going on. And you can really learn a lot about the diversity of the tribes and the peoples through their food. Because people say, oh, the Asian community. But we know that Thai food is not Chinese food, which is not Japanese food. Japanese food is like sushi and stuff like that. So how can we understand that? We can understand that. But for some reason, we just group all these people together and be like, Asian. It's like people are trying to purposely misunderstand the world, except where it affects them personally, like where they want to eat that night, which of course we would do because we are a selfish, narcissistic, chubby people. But I don't believe they don't understand. I just don't believe it. No, I love America. I trash talk America all the time. I do it constantly. In almost every video, I trash talk America. But I'm just being honest. And I feel you can only show love through honesty. Like if you lie, you just show contempt. That's not love. So when I was saying we were a chubby, narcissistic, selfish people, I meant like that's not the worst thing in the world though. There's trade-offs to everything. Selfish can be very beneficial to you. Okay? We all have to be a little bit selfish to get by. And half the people who call you selfish, have you ever noticed this? Half the people who call you selfish just want to guilt you into giving them something or guilt you into not getting what you deserve because it makes them uncomfortable. So when someone calls you selfish, like think, am I being selfish? Maybe. Or is it a them problem? And my coach, Jerry, you know, my coach, Jerry, I love him. But he would always say, get more out of yourself. Be selfish. Get as much as you can out of yourself and out of your practice. And that applies to all areas of my life now. Be selfish. And it's kind of that attitude that made our country what it used to be. People would be like, oh, such and such made our country as great as it is. And I'm like, as it is now, covered in opioid addicts? No, not now. So when I point to a better America, I point to the 90s. So it's that selfish attitude that made us what we were 30 years ago. I'm kidding. Don't be so sensitive about it. If you're an opioid addict, please get help. However, I will say this about our time versus 30 years ago. We're having much better food now. Now, the food is the best that it ever was. And you can't really talk about food without talking about society. And you can't talk about society without talking about food. So they kind of go hand in hand. And the food is much better now than it was 30 years ago because influx of immigrants from all over the world. It's not just black and white. We have a lot more Asians now. We have a lot more South Asians. We have a lot more, obviously, Hispanics. And we just have more food culture. Plus, we have the internet, which is spreading recipes. The immigrants, they get here. They look at our grocery stores and they politely pass. They're like, no, thank you. Wonder Bread isn't bread. I'm going to go make my own grocery store. Can I just say our grocery stores are embarrassing us? However, it does prompt people to make their own grocery stores, so I'm kind of digging it. I really dig the ethnic grocery stores. I go to all of them, plus the white grocery stores, which are basically American grocery stores because there's, in my area, and I live in a pretty metropolitan area, there's no black grocery stores. Let's be honest. There's no black grocery stores. It's just American grocery stores. Except the African or the Caribbean stores, because African and Caribbeans are a distinct ethnic group with their own cuisine. And that's how you can tell a group is different. And we've known it all along. We just pretend we don't know it when it's convenient to us. Meh. Honestly, if the world does start eating the same thing everywhere, we start to homogenize on a very basic level and to just become like this blob of humanity. Do you remember that movie, The Blob? Do you remember that movie? They did it in like the 50s and they did it in the 80s again. And it's just this blob and there's this monster that just ate up all this organic matter, all this organic material, and became this big gelatinous goo. Such is American food culture. People say we're kind of doing that with our culture all over the world, but yeah, a big gelatinous organic goo. So that's the downside of American cuisine. But what's the upside? Well, we as residents actually get the upside because people come here and they bring their delicious spices. People get mad at the British because of their spice wars, their spice colonization. But have you tried how good some of these spices are? Like, let's be serious for a minute. They're very good. If someone were to say, okay, we have to build 2 more aircraft carrier so you can have Indian food, I think I would secretly vote to build those aircraft carrier. Even if they're like, oh, it's going to be $100 billion a piece. I'm like, yeah, just do it. Do what you have to do. No, I'm joking. I am joking. Absolutely not. Because we have done it better. We have done it much better. Modern America has found a better way of getting delicious spices. We don't have to go and colonize any area. We invite them here. They become our doctors and we get their food. I guess America can't manage to make its own doctors anymore, which is another video entirely. It's not here. But I'm glad there are doctors. I love that they teach me math on YouTube. I love that they open little restaurants that include the samosas with your lunch. Tamarind sauce? Tamarind sauce. Invite more people here to make tamarind sauce and give them more visas. I'm just going to say this. There should be a chutney visa. And if you make the best chutney in your village, you get to come here. I'm very serious about this. You think I'm joking? I'm very serious about this. There should be sauce visas open for every country all around the world. And if you make the best sauce in that country, then you can come here. And this would have actually been better if Anthony Bourdain hadn't, passed, because he could be judging this. And we could televise this visa process, make a reality show out of it. We'd all watch that show. We'd all look forward to the little restaurants opening. Okay, what if they made it so that if you get a food visa, you have to go to some random lottery place in the United States, just some little small American town. And then overnight, everyone has much better food. The best Pakistani chef could wind up in South Dakota as part of his visa. Think about it. It does make a lot of sense. Somebody please make this show. I know the government's hurting for money. Maybe we could just get it together, make this package deal. Indian and Pakistani food are good. They're very, very similar. And the main difference is that one includes cow. But Indian food also has lamb. At least over here it has lamb. So it's like, it's good enough. Now the cow is sacred in India for the Hindus. And so they're largely lacto-vegetarian, which means they eat dairy and they eat vegetables. So that's a religious difference because Pakistanis and Indians were the same. They were united. But then after partition, they split. So now there's a Muslim area and there's a Hindu area, even though there's a lot of Muslims in India. And the language is the same except for the alphabet. So that's what I mean when I say you can tell a lot about a people through their food. I wasn't just joking. You actually can. Okay, moving on. I think I've made that point. I think I've made that point many times. I think I've made that point clear. I will make it again 1 or 2 more times before the end of this show because it's important. Now, if you, for some reason, you don't live near the cities, you don't live near ethnic restaurants, that's okay. Just look around your small town. Look at all those new brown people who have come in. Do these people piss off your uncle? Are people complaining about them? Good. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Follow them to the grocery store. See what they buy. See what their grocery stores are like. Go inside. Smile and be friendly. Ask a worker, what you guys got going on over here? Now, sometimes they have prepared food. So you can get some and see how it tastes. See if you like their cuisine. If it's a grocery, oftentimes they'll also have all the ingredients for this prepared food. Find a good recipe. You can find it online. Adjust it to fit your taste. Just because a recipe's online, especially an ethnic recipe, it's not going to be good off the bat. You have to adjust it to fit your taste. Now, here's something else I've noticed while traveling. Chinese food in France is not the same as Chinese food in Pakistan, which is not the same as Chinese food in Boston. all of these cuisines change to fit the local taste of the area. And of course, it's not the same as it is in China. So because we've eaten Chinese food here doesn't mean we'd have any understanding of Chinese food in China. It changes to meet their personal taste of the area. That's why you should change recipes to meet your personal taste. Remember one time we went to this Indian restaurant, and we're gringo Americans, which is a term I personally use for just a generic Americans, straight up generic. We only speak one language, that's English, duh. We think you can dress up leggings because they're a very practical item of clothing, let's be honest. And Amazon knows more about us than our moms do. So that's a gringo American, and that's me, and I'm not ashamed, whatever. So we go to this Indian restaurant, and we're gringo Americans, and the owner is an older guy, and we ask him about the vegetables. We're like, are they steamed? You know, are they served with a sauce? And he got so offended. He looks at us like, you're going to come into my establishment and ask me these things? You think I just feed livestock here? You think this is a barn? Of course they come with a sauce. If I give you steamed vegetables, I've given you nothing. And we're like, oh, it's good to know. So yeah, you can eat more vegetables if you season them up and you make them more appetizing. Now, I do appreciate high-end American cuisine, high-end white American cuisine. The philosophy of high-end white American cuisine is that if you have fresh ingredients and you use olive oil and butter and fresh herbs, you don't necessarily have to add much sauce or seasoning. It's very European. I appreciate it, and it's true. So like roasting Brussels sprouts in olive oil with bacon and fresh herbs is not the same as opening a bag of frozen vegetables, steaming them, and adding a generic spice blend. So I don't want to make it seem as though I don't appreciate high-end American cuisine, because I obviously do. But it's different. If you don't like it like that, then yeah, add a sauce. Figure out how to make a delicious Indian sauce so you can make this old Indian man proud. Now, I will just say this. A lot of people, I've run into them, think, oh, I don't want to go to the ethnic stores. The quality isn't very good. Yeah, I'll give you that. There are some places where this might be true. One, it's not true of all the places. And two, there's a difference between Eastern European and Mexican, right? I actually got in this conversation with somebody, and I was like, I like to go to the immigrant stores. And I was talking about the Eastern European store. I was talking about this Eastern European chain we have here. And she was like, no, I don't like to go there because the quality isn't very good. And she's thinking I'm talking about Mexican food. And I'm like, first off, it depends on the neighborhood, how fresh and high quality the grocery store is. And second, there is a difference between immigrants, right? Not all immigrants are the same kind of immigrants. And not all immigrants have the same food culture. So I don't know why Americans are like this. Because we're chubby, selfish, and narcissistic. But we seem to think that when you say immigrant, oh, there's only one kind of immigrant. They all think the same. Like, no, there are many different kinds. They all have a different food culture. And if you're like, no, I only eat at Whole Foods, I only eat the freshest food from Whole Foods, that's fine, because you can get the freshest food from Whole Foods or your farmer's market and then season them with different spices. So perhaps you had a bad experience at an ethnic grocery store with the meat or the vegetables or whatever. Maybe somebody was very rude to you. But maybe you had a bad experience and you just want to get the freshest ingredients you can because you're part of this high-end American food culture. That's fine. Get the freshest ingredients. Go to the farmer's market. Give your local farmers some money. And then go and get the seasoning mix. Learn how to cook, and you can do the same thing. There's a lot of nuance to this video. I should probably make my whole YouTube a food YouTube. Because I'm kind of done with turning on my phone every morning or turning on my phone whenever I turn it on and seeing the complete disaster that is modern society. You know, how things have been crumbling over the past 10 years. So it might bring me to a happy place to just talk about food all the time. But even if I did that, people would still get mad. So, nah. This video, however, is about food. Anyway, I feel, being a selfish gringo American, that I should have access to both ethnic foods and high-end American foods. And why is that? Why do I feel this? Because I am selfish with my food, and that's the beauty of being an American, is you can appropriate other people's things. You take the best. I've seen all these memes online, like, you're not supposed to appropriate this, you're supposed to just have what you were born with and nothing else. Like, these people have forgotten their birthright. We're supposed to take everything, the best of everything that the world has to offer. But they got caught up in this stick to your culture, don't appropriate kind of thinking. And that's the point of this country. That's the entire point of the United States, is to appropriate other people's things. I don't know where this came from, but the past 5 years, it's going around everywhere. And I hate to have to spell it out to people, but that's why we're most like Rome. Like, aside from the architecture and the fact that our founding fathers modeled our whole government after Rome, that's not what makes us most like Rome. What makes us most like Rome is we take what we like and we incorporate it and we assimilate it. And now we have it. Now we have pizza. Delicious. We have samosas. Nom, talented samosas. We have that now. Why should we give it up? Because of a meme? Ugh, don't get me started. This is why I don't do social media anymore. 10 years ago, if you asked about appropriation, people would be like, yeah, I love appropriation. That's why my life is so good. Now you ask about appropriation, they'll be like, I never did anything like that. That's terrible. I never thought appropriation was good. You literally did before you saw the meme. Guys, check out that slogans video, how they brainwash you. These memes are powerful, man. They're so powerful. It gets people's heads and they screw them up. Now they're living their worst life because they want to appropriate what they should appropriate. I feel so bad for people who get stuck in this terrible food culture, this terrible food cycle of their family because they don't know much about food. They can't cook. Their families can't cook. They just order these generic meals from the menu, or worse yet, the packaged foods. But I do feel I'm living my best American culinary life. I go to all the grocery stores. I go to the Mexican grocery stores, the American grocery stores. And when you get American grocery stores, you have the general American, middle class American, and then you have high-end American. So you got like Ralph's, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. And then there's these Asian stores. And then there's the international stores, which seem to mostly encompass Eastern European and Persian. We have African stores, but they're all the way over there. I'm not going all the way over there. It's just too far. Anyway, when I move away from Los Angeles, I will continue to have access to all the flavors I want because of these soulless tech giants who have found a way to bring the ingredients to my front door so I can just order with a click of a button. Look, everyone wants to make a buck and I want to make an entree, so let's make this work, okay? Let's do business. Let's exchange money here. Now, I know a lot of people have a major problem with diversity, but let me tell you, we don't get a say. We don't get a say in diversity. That's way above our pay grade. So I don't really care where you fall on the diversity politics aspect. You want to close the border, that's fine. We already have burrito technology. If you want to open the border, that's fine. You get someone else to make your burrito so you don't have to do it. It's good either way. Your politics doesn't have any effect on this conversation whatsoever. However, accepting somebody else's food does not mean you cede your society to them. America's always been pretty good about assimilating new peoples. Like after a generation or two, we all become gringo Americans. We're all spoiled. We're all selfish. We all only speak English and don't even bother to learn anything else. We all have pearly white teeth. That's what I mean by gringo American. Like, I'm sorry. After 2 generations, 3 generations, we're all like this. Other places aren't so lucky, so that's their politics. It's not really any of my business. It's beyond the scope of this video. It's just so funny to me that Americans get so caught up in making these racial distinctions between groups, but after a generation or two, all these groups are very similar. They follow the same patterns. They eat the same things. They dress the same way. Their home design looks alike. Like, this would be cute if it weren't tearing the country apart. But when you really look at us, especially if you travel abroad, people look at us and they see Americans. They don't see black, white, brown. As soon as we open our mouths, they're like, oh, that's an American. I can tell. Why? Well, because we are the way we are. But here we like to say, oh, we're so different. I'm nothing like this group. I'm nothing like that group. But in every measurable way, or in maybe 80% of the measurable ways, we're the same. So I know that's not something people want to hear. People want to hear, I am so different. My tribe is so different than every other tribe. My group or my block is so different than every other block. But it's like, come on. Y'all shop at the Home Depot, the same Home Depot, wait in line. Y'all understand how that line works, but you're very different. None of y'all can speak another language. Everyone's on TikTok. What are you talking about? We're all the same. We're all terrible. We just won't accept it. I don't know. It's so hard for us to accept that we're all the same and we're all terrible. We just won't accept it. But racism could die tomorrow if we would just see that simple fact. Do you remember? It this was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. This guy shared a map of Los Angeles, and it was a map of all the Trader Joe's in Los Angeles. And he used this as an example of all the food deserts. And I think this dude actually had a Hispanic name. And I was like, if you think food and Trader Joe's comes to mind, I'm sorry, but you're a white guy. I don't care if you have a Hispanic name. I don't care if your name ends in Z or S or A or whatever. You're white. Stop it. You can't buy groceries at Trader Joe's. You get wine, you get cheese, and you get snacks at Trader Joe's. And the chocolate is very, very good. Do you know how many Vallartas there would have been on that map? Vallarta is a Mexican grocery store chain. They have great produce and meats. They got a great section for that. And this dude was looking at this map of Trader Joe's thinking this proved food deserts. And I'm sorry, but if you go to Trader Joe's more than 3 times in a row for groceries, you're a white person.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
And I'm sorry if you didn't know you were white either. That must be really hard to hear. Like, oh my God, I only shop at Trader Joe's. Does that mean I'm white? Yes. It means you're gringo. And it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't make you a bad person. Just accept it. Accept what you are. Embrace it. Your skin tone is secondary. Your heart is white. The machine has won with you. The blob has taken you over. I'm just going to say I don't feel bad appropriating other people's food. I feel they should be honored that I would take the time to do so. Like I told you, I am an American and therefore I am selfish and self-centered and not ashamed. So of course I'm going to appropriate other people's food. My money is as green as anybody else's, huh? You want to sell me something? Good. Sell me this delicious foreign sauce. I'll give you my money. And that's kind of the agreement we have. And that's what I love about people who come here and open restaurants. Because they're not here to judge you. They're just here to sell you something. And that's it. And I'm here to buy something. People are like, oh, that's capitalism. Capitalism is terrible. Da, 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 da. But you know what? It brings us together. Because they don't even speak English. But you know what they do? They speak green. Boop. Give me the sauce. I will give you this money. They take the money and be like, here's your sauce, madam. You gringo, here's your sauce. I'm like, num, but it's too spicy. Just an FYI, my main grocery store now is the international store, which is actually Eastern European, like Persian. And that's because it's pretty cheap and it's super high quality. Super high quality. The meat is comparable to, the best American grocery stores, and they have sauces Americans don't even know about. They don't even know about these sauces. You know what hot pepper paste is? Hot pepper paste is like tomato paste, except with hot peppers. They have been keeping hot pepper paste from you. You don't know about hot pepper paste. You're welcome. I have told you about it. It's delicious. Add it to your cuisine. Add it to your recipes. Share this video to show your gratitude. They make this garlic sauce, which is it's like garlic and citrus and oil, and they make it into a sauce, and they throw that on everything. It's delicious. You can make it yourself, but I can get it at the international store. It's better than hummus. You remember when they dropped hummus on us, and we were like, "Oh my God, hummus! What is this? Is this chickpea?" All of America went crazy for hummus. This is better than hummus. You're welcome. And they've got a real cheese selection too. Like in American stores, they just have feta cheese. And that means Greek feta because that's the only kind we know. But there's a whole bunch of different kinds of feta. You go to the international store and you get the Greek feta, you get the French feta, you get the Armenian feta, and you get my favorite, which is the Bulgarian feta. Bulgarian feta, the best feta, hands down. I remember this one time I was at a deli and I was ordering what I needed. I was ordering my deli meats and my cheeses. And there were all these immigrants, like first generation immigrants around. And this guy was looking at me like, what is she doing here? Because, I opened my mouth so he could tell like, she didn't belong here. And I ordered Bulgarian feta. And he just looked at me like, she knows what's up. Like, I do know what's up. Okay. And I looked back at him like, yeah, dude, you didn't expect me to say Bulgarian feta, did you? And we just like nodded. And we kind of bonded in that moment. We bonded. And it was like, we both appreciate good food. We both appreciate the best kind of cheese. And whatever happened to him in his home country, whatever war crimes happened to him or whatever war crimes he committed, it didn't matter because he's here now. And whatever spoiled life I lived, it didn't matter because we're here now. We're both at the same deli ordering the same kind of superior cheese. So our taste buds bonded in that moment. It was crazy. We're just like mutual respect. Anyway, I hope you too are appreciating this food renaissance that we are going through. I hope you are getting the best ingredients and the best recipes for yourself and your family, and you are really appreciating living in this time. Thank you. Subscribe.